So this is a segment that I'm very excited for. It's breaking down the AP poll for college football. Jesus Christ, man, I'm getting tired already. As you can tell, it's nighttime right now. It's like 9 p.m. Central Time. I had a pretty long day. Work was long, but then I went on a run, and I felt a little bit better, but I'm still kind of exhausted. So let's kind of go through the AP poll breakdown. I'll start at the very bottom, which was number 25, and then kind of just briefly go through some teams and maybe stop for a couple teams that I follow a little bit more closely to kind of give my thoughts of what I like or dislike and what maybe their kind of end of the season is going to look like as well. So number 25, you got BYU. They're not in a conference; they're an independent, and I'm not going to knock them down just because I have seen some pretty consistent results from them year over year. That's where Zach Milson came from, and he had a pretty good year at BYU, so I'm sure they know how to groom players. Followed by Houston, and then Cincinnati. I'm kind of curious what Cincinnati's going to be like because they had a breakout year with Desmond Riddler as their quarterback, and they even made to the national the playoffs for college football. And this is kind of really going to determine, all right, Cincinnati really going to be the big guys that can step up to the challenge year after year because they're probably going to go to the Big 12 pretty soon. If I were to predict what their season is going to look like, I don't think it's going to be the same as last year. I don't think they're going to make it to the championship or the playoffs just because there's just a lot of stacked teams that are on this list. So you got Wake Forest on here. You got Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's the head coach there. I like him. And then Kentucky, which was kind of a little surprise for me. I didn't expect to see them on there. Looks like they finished last year at 18th, and so they're back on the poll again at 20th. Arkansas, one of my favorite teams. Number 18 is University of Wisconsin. So I was thinking about this. What I like with Wisconsin is the production is always consistent if you set the right expectations, of course. Wisconsin has one of the most elite defensive programs I've ever seen. Each year, it's always the same, and they know how to grow these low 3-star recruits and turn them into big defensive players. Just ask the Watt brothers and Leo Chanel. Those are great examples of just how well they groom their defensive players. And then on the offensive side, running backs after running backs after running backs, they know how to get those guys prepared. And Braylon Allen is going to be that next guy that's going to be the running back star in the Big Ten. Unfortunately, the passing game, it's non-existent. I was a huge advocate for Graham Mertz, but Graham Mertz is what every Wisconsin quarterback is besides Russell Wilson. Just mediocre. So I don't expect much from the passing side. I just hope they can use their defense to stop good teams in the Big Ten, and then their run game can just do what it does best and just score and get them hopefully to the Big Ten championship game, which I predict will probably be against Ohio State. Pittsburgh, that's where Kenny Pickett went. I don't know who's the starting quarterback this year. So I was surprised to see them still on the AP poll. Miami, Florida, that was an interesting one. I think what influenced this was the acquisition of Mario Cristobal from Oregon. Great coach, has a lot of experience with a lot of other great coaches. And I think he's really excited to be back in Miami, and he wants to lead them to an ACC championship game. Followed by Michigan State, USC. USC is interesting as well because, like Miami, they got a big-time coach. They got Lincoln Riley, and followed him was Caleb Williams from Oklahoma. And I'm sure they got a couple other acquisitions from that as well in terms of the recruiting class and transfer portal. So I think all those moves will influence this ranking for the number 14 spot. And to be honest, the Pac-12 is not that competitive compared to the other conferences, especially, I guess maybe not especially, but it's. I feel like the level of competition is slightly lower than the Big 12 where he came from, Lincoln Riley. So we'll see how he does in this new conference. He may have to make adjustments because the West Coast offense is definitely different than the Big 12 spread offense that they do out there. Oklahoma State is on here. Then Oregon. Oregon's probably my favorite team in the Pac-12. I don't know too much about their head coach, and it sounds like the AP poll really likes what's going on over there. So I'll have to keep an eye on Oregon because I've been following Oregon a little bit more closely when my brother-in-law introduced me to Justin Herbert when he was a sophomore. And yeah, I liked what I saw at Oregon. And it's just fun to watch because I need to pay attention to all conferences. And Pac-12 is something that is a little hard for me to watch because the games are so late at night. I'm surprised Baylor was this low, considering how great they finished off the season. But I got a feeling they're going to creep their way up even higher, if not stay the same in the top 10. Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley's old school. So Oklahoma, it's Oklahoma, and the Big 12 is not as competitive. Besides Baylor and Oklahoma State, those are kind of the only true competitors in that. I want to say Iowa State, but I don't like to get my hopes up for my old school, just because when you give them expectations, they sometimes don't meet that. But hopefully they can get a win on Oklahoma, just because Oklahoma always beats up on everyone else. But I don't really agree with this ranking. I think they should be outside the top 10. But like I said, it's their schedule. It's kind of going to determine their ranking, because I think they're going to have a little bit of an easy path for the most part. A couple of hiccups there, but number 9, pretty standard for Oklahoma. Do I think they're going to make it to the Big 12 championship game? Yeah, I think they might. Michigan at number 8. This is a surprise. They lost a few key players in the draft, particularly their All-American defensive end. God, I can't remember his name. If I do, I'll say it. But I think this is too high of a rank, even though this is 5 spots down. I don't see them making it to the Big Ten championship game, considering how consistent Ohio State's roster looks compared to Michigan. But I think they're going to have a couple big wins on their belt, and it'll be at least a close one, I would say, within the Big Ten East. Utah, I like Utah. I saw their match against Ohio State, and it was just great. Like Pac-12, I mean, I forgot about Utah when I was talking smack about Pac-12, but now that they're back in my mind, Lincoln Riley is going to have some problems handling Utah. So I'm really excited to see that matchup when that time comes. But Utah's looking really good, and there's nothing really noticeable that kind of changed year over year. And we might see another Rose Bowl, which would be great. Texas A&M, they got a lot of spotlight this offseason because they, for the first time in a while, it wasn't Alabama, Georgia, or Clemson that got the number 1 recruiting year, and Texas A&M took that over. And so for the next couple of years, we're probably going to see them in the spotlight within the top 10 or top 5 year over year. And Jimbo Fisher, he has a very long history and lineage of coaches and other quarterbacks. So I think he's going to groom this team just fine. Notre Dame. Notre Dame is interesting. Brian Kelly left Notre Dame to go to LSU. And yeah, I think this is a little too high, but because it's Notre Dame and their schedule is a little easier than some, except the first matchup. Ohio State, that's going to be a tough one, but after that, it's going to be a little bit more smoother for their schedule. I have a feeling they're probably going to finish outside the top 10, but Notre Dame produces pretty consistent players, especially at the O-line position, and so I'll be keeping an eye on for them. Of course, these are the ones you always see every year. Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. Clemson had an off year to their standards at least, even though they did beat up on Iowa State in their bowl game. It was the Cheez-It game, yes. But it sounds like they're back in action. Got a good recruiting class. There's going to be some speculation who the starting quarterback's going to be. It's either going to be DJ Uiagalelei or whoever is next. I think he's also a 5 or 4-star recruit. So there's probably going to be a little bit of a QB battle. I mean, I'm not impressed with DJ, so we'll see what happens with that. But Dabo Swinney, business as usual with him. He's going to get an ACC championship again because he missed it last year, and he probably wants it this year for sure. And then Georgia, the national champion. Stetson Bennett is back. I am very surprised to see that. So Stetson Bennett was the quarterback for Georgia last year, and he led them to a national title. I guess led them is kind of a soft word because that team was just stacked on defense. It was one of the best defenses of 2021. But it does seem assuring that Stetson Bennett is going to return, considering he's been there for so many years. He understands kind of the style that Kirby Smart runs. And so I think there won't be much adjustment for him on that front. Then Ohio State and Alabama. Ohio State, yeah, they're probably going to win the Big Ten again. I used to hate on Ryan Day. Not hate him, but just I had my doubts for him because I always said, like, oh, Urban Meyer just pretty much gave Ryan Day the keys to a Ferrari that's already tuned up. So all you do is just drive it, not crash it. It's been a couple years, and Ryan Day has still produced good numbers and has taken them to Big Ten championship games back-to-back all since he started. And at no point now, I don't see any players that Urban Meyer has recruited that Ryan Day is under. So I think it's going to be another Big Ten title for the Ohio State. And, of course, Alabama. Yep. SEC title, probably against Georgia. And another championship, or at least the playoffs. So, yeah, just kind of break down my Power 5 conference predictions in terms of what the championship games are going to be like. So, at ACC, I have a prediction is going to be Dabo Swinney from Clemson will be battling against Mario Cristobal at Miami. I think that'd be a great matchup. Pac-12 is going to be Utah versus Oregon. And then Big 12 is going to be Baylor versus Oklahoma. And the Big 10, always my favorite matchup. I just hate the end result of every time this happens. It's Ohio State versus Wisconsin. And then finally, the SEC, Alabama versus Georgia.